Okay, we would like to welcome you to our city council meeting on January 27th, correct? 2026. We are going to be having a budget meeting. We have one thing on our agenda before we move into our budget meeting. And from speaking with council, we are going to open this up to public comment if city council is agreeable to that. And if you are, then because this wasn't on our agenda, we need to have a city council member make a motion to add public comment.
I'll make a motion to add public comment.
Okay, the motion.
Second it.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilmember Rapoletto. The second was made by Councilmember Hancock. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we will open it up to public comments. As always, you have 3 minutes. If you will come up to the podium, state your name. And again, you have 3 minutes. Morgan, our city recorder, has our signs and she will tell you when your time is up.
Open comments, like whatever we want to
This is open comment time on anything. So. Would you please just state your name?
You know, my name's Sherry.
Well, yeah, the recorder needs to for.
I just want you guys to explain so we can all comment on what I guess you're proposing to do tonight. Because I don't know how to comment unless you tell me what's going on.
Okay, is there another comment? The agenda was posted online. I think everyone should have had a chance.
Right, it
But-
needs to be stated. I don't know how, and all of you.
Okay, if you would like to make a public comment, you're welcome to come up next. I didn't bring up my agenda. Okay,
So
do you have your
know
agenda?
that
I can
some
read
of
it.
you ran on the notion that public comment, we wanted to have you guys talk about what was on the agenda so that we could comment on it. To read an agenda, you can put on there removal of a commissioner. That means nothing to me. Tell me why. How did you come up with that? What was the process? How did you come up with the people you came up with? I mean, I don't know how to comment on something if I don't have all the information.
Okay, thank you. And do you want me to
I'll be
read what this
dismissed
is?
as I normally
No, the action item for tonight is motion, approval of the removal of Planning Commission member Amanda Prince and Sheldon Greener. So this was discussed at a previous meeting last Thursday. I don't know if there's any comment, or if not, we'll take the next public comment.
Amber Kelso, HIPAA resident. I'll just read a little bit of the statement that I sent to some of the council members. Those who have known and worked with Commissioner Prince throughout her years of service would attest to the committed and thorough job she has done. She has shown an unparalleled level of dedication, and that is why she has had the respect of the majority in our city government. She has been known for her commitment to the law, thorough research, and willingness to stand for the right, even when it was difficult. She has been an absolute champion for the voice of the people, advocating for public input and public comment. Last week, someone stood at this podium and insinuated that the public doesn't want Commissioner Prince serving because she lost the race to Mr. Rapoletto. What I would like to remind you that she only lost by 49 votes. That's not a landslide by any means. The fact that she came that close, considering Mr. Rapoletto's name recognition, says a lot. She had a great deal of support. in this city. And I feel like you council members would know that if you had attended any of the meetings before you decided to serve. As for Commissioner Greener, he also has served faithfully with dedication and integrity. Is that my time? Oh, I remember him also attending meetings regularly before he ever applied for the Planning Commission, having a true desire to understand and be involved. He earned that seat and is a wonderful addition to our commission. He is level-headed and a free thinker. It seems to be an undesirable quality at this time. Why on earth would we want to replace these two committed commission members who've chosen to sacrifice their time and volunteer to do this? The city is constantly asking for people to get involved. I feel like this has been a retaliatory move. I mean, anyone that has been paying attention to what's going on, I believe that Mayor Bingham has been trying to get rid of my sister. That's who Commissioner Prince is. She's my sister. For quite some time, ever since she stood in a public meeting and when was questioned if there had been closed door meetings with a developer who had already applied, Amanda admitted that that was a violation to our code of ethics that was committed by the mayor. And I think it's just really sad. I feel like none of you have really tried to talk to Amanda about what has happened, not in the past. It's just basically informing her of this is what we've decided and this is what we're going to do. And I don't know, my statement's long. I've sent it to all of you guys, so I'd appreciate if you guys read it. That's all I can say.
Thank you. I didn't receive it either.
Amber, I got it. I have it. It does work.
Council members, who I know most all of you in some, sorry, Brent Odenwalder. I know you, all of you in some sort of capacity, and consider you, you guys acquaintances, friends, whatever. But I do have to say to the new council that's here, we need public comments on every meeting, the availability of public comments. And I would like to ask you to put that in starting tonight, going always forward. If nobody wants to talk, that's fine, but let it be there. Regarding the removal of two people that I also know quite well, to me, this seems extremely retaliatory. And it seems like a purge to me. That's, you can look at it any way you want, but that's the way it looks to me. And I'm going to say it for what it is. We ran on unifying Hooper. I promise you, the move that is being done right here is in no way unifying Hooper, but that's what a lot of you guys ran on. So let's unify. Why in the world would we remove the best of the best? And I'm talking about two people that are really absolutely qualified for what they do. And one of these individuals, I have never seen a person study the issues more thoroughly than that person in my life. And I've dealt with a lot of politicians and a lot of people. And I just urge you to reconsider this. It will not unify Hooper as a city. And again, as my friends, I encourage you to not go through with this. And let's bring unity, real unity to Hooper. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we don't clap or, okay.
I hope you can hear me clearly because I get nervous. Okay, Stacy Judkins, not related. Why would you place a motion to remove members of the planning committee on the budget meeting agenda? Why was the agenda posted so late? What are you trying to accomplish? Why are you posting an open position on the planning commission while you are simultaneously downsizing the commission and removing 2 members? It is difficult not to view these actions as retaliation against members who have worked hard to do the right thing when faced with difficult decisions. The timing, waiting until new council is in place, only reinforces that concern. This approach appears to justify a predetermined outcome rather than demonstrate transparent leadership. As citizens of Hooper, we expect our mayor to make decisions in the best interest of our community, not to force a personal agenda. Manipulating processes and limiting public input undermines trust in the local government. You should not be censoring the public's ability to express opinions. This item should be moved to a future meeting so residents have adequate notice and the opportunity to provide meaningful input on what we want for our city.
Thank you.
My name is Keith Lawson. I have 3 things. Why these people, why now, and why this way? And I bet almost everybody in this room feels the same way. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
My name is Gene Larson. I don't feel that way. I was appointed to a 4-year term on the Planning Commission, January 1st of 2025. Subsequently, because of the discontent within the Planning Commission, the City Council decided to, I don't know how they decided, I don't know when they decided, I don't know how that agreement was reached, but they decided that we're going to limit the number of years that the people called on the Planning Commission were given instead of 4 years. It's so strange, such a coincidence that because I was the one who was the most boisterous against Amanda and Sheldon, that it just miraculously happened that I had the 1 year, I was given the 1 year term, which was up December 31st of 25. It amazes me how everybody's talking about transparency. We need to see all this, we do, but how come it didn't take place prior when we had the other city council members? We spoke, we got rid of those who we could that was causing the problem. I believe the change needs to be made. It needs to be made now, and we need to start fresh.
Thank you.
Jake Kelso, Hooper resident. I would like to ask the new council members if you understand your place in this governing body. Is your role to solely do whatever the mayor fancies, or is the role to provide additional reasoning, checks, and balances? Hooper City has a weak mayor form of government. It means that the council holds the power and therefore the responsibility and accountability of the decisions they choose to make. This is in no way a dictatorship, but is sure looking like one at the moment. Will you stand on your own logic, interpretations, and principles? Or is it all about the mayor, what the mayor wants, mayor gets? Of the six sitting planning commissioners, I know you didn't have the support of at least 4 of them in this decision. You also didn't have the support of 2 of the council members who have been serving the city for years, but you didn't care what any of them, the ones who actually have been here serving throughout, you arrogantly, anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I just think it's bad to remove Amanda and Commissioner Greener. They both have been here actively involved in everything that has to do with the city. Greener was here before me. Like, I started coming many years ago, and he was there when I showed up. So I know he's been at least active longer than that. And I just think it's unfortunate to take someone who's been involved and remove them for no good reason. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, my name is Andrew Warwood. Do you want my address too, or? Okay. I actually want to talk about something different. So a few months ago, we changed the speed limits on 55, 51, and 4700. And I voiced my opposition to it then. I was pulled over recently because I had a headlight out on my way home, and I was going 33 miles an hour. I was being tailgated, whatever. The cop was nice enough to pull me over and say, hey, you have a headlight out. I was like, oh, perfect. And I asked him, I said, hey, can you do something about the speeders on this road? And I won't disclose the deputy's name. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he said, you know, Andrew, I don't pull people over unless they're going over 45 on this or 5,500. And that's pretty standard practice. And I was like, are you kidding me? I get tailgated, I get flipped off, I get passed. and I don't care if the speed limit's 30, enforce 30. If the speed limit's 45, enforce 45. Now, if it's 40, I can understand enforcing 45. The other frustrating part is I drive 4,700 every day after I drop my son off at Quest Elementary. And West Haven's portion, 35 miles an hour. Hooper's portion, 30 miles an hour. So that was kind of the reasoning, was West Haven forced our hand, but yet now they're not even keeping up their side of the speed limit change on 4,700. So that's my grievance, I guess, or something I would like to bring up to you guys is, can we revisit this with West Haven and say, no, 5,100 should be 35 or 40, back to 40. 35 is a great compromise. But that's my 2 cents. Something, a little change of venue for you for a minute.
Okay, thank you. One thing I forgot to mention too, there are index cards on the table. So if anybody has any questions you want to address to one of us specifically or to a staff member, feel free to write that down with your phone number and to who you would like that to go. And then we'll make sure they get that so they can address you. Okay, seeing no more public comments, then we're going to move on to the meeting. Or if they request that you read.
So can by a Hooper resident, the last meeting that we had that we read 3 letters, and I was okay with that because we all received it. But his concern was so I could write a 10-page letter and bring up to the council to read it, and then we would be able to discuss this. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of what we opened up. And no offense to you, Councilman Fowers, but I think it's just something that we need to address. And, because basically that letter, according to this resident, said this is just opening up a better avenue for them. They would never come up and make a public comment if they could get a council member to read a letter. Just food for thought for later, for a work meeting.
How does council feel about that then? Do you want there?
I think if it stays under 3 minutes,
I don't think, we don't have any procedure on that. I think want to address that in the future. We want to right now as a council vote to not allow it.
no, I'm good with it.
Okay, maybe just 3 minutes then. Thank you.
That, but in my professional life, I've had to overcome unwelcomed meddling from those in positions too far removed to know or care how their policies impact local operations. I will tell you the most valuable tool in your arsenal is to beat back the interference is competence. Competence in government usually comes from experience and dedication. If we are being honest and put feelings aside, you'd be hard pressed to point to 2 people who are more dedicated and experienced than Greener and Prince. To my point, is there anyone left with even 2 years planning experience on our newly minted land use authority, such as the Planning Commission? Do citizens even understand what the state has done in terms of the compressed time the Planning Commission has to make decisions? So where we have chosen to put ourselves is to deal with a compressed time with fewer heads and less experience. Tell me that isn't asking for problems. There are practical implications to what you folks on the city council are doing here today. I don't see much pragmatism in any of it. And I had to look up that word, practical experience, like something that's been tried and proven from experience. I'm disappointed we cannot get beyond our personal issues for the benefit of the city. In my opinion, this is all about personalities and retribution and who really pays for that.
Was that anonymous, Councilmember
No,
Flowers?
it's from Pat Greco. Yeah, so,
Okay, thank
Hooper
you.
resident?
yes, Hooper resident,
Okay.
and has attended quite faithfully to most meetings that I've been to, so.
Okay, was there any other emails that you were no? request to
I
read?
got several. I'll just say that I got like 10 different emails today or text messages. I won't say the names or read the emails, but 10 different ones, 100% of them were all against this action.
I probably got the same 10, but I did get four or five that was for it.
And I also probably received a dozen, and they were about 50-50.
Okay, so if no other comments, we're going to move on then. Oh, okay.
Like severing, we've heard a lot, there's been a lot of innuendo about the reason for this is term limits. And as Gene alluded to, when it went to 7, he got, whether it was a straw poll, pull your name out of the hat, or how it was done, he got the 1 year. I got a 4-year. Amanda got 3, I believe, and Sheldon got 4. Well, if they're being targeted as their term limit is up, and it's what it's really for is that the term limit they've served is up, then I should have been on the chopping block as well, because I've served over 4 years. So if you're, whatever you're gonna do, I don't think it's really term limits, as some people have alluded to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so back then to our action item. So based on ordinance 0202601, I am the motion, and because of the ability of the mayor, I am recommending the removal of Planning Commission member Amanda Prince and Sheldon Greener. So I will entertain a motion for that.
Motion so moved.
The motion was made by Councilmember Rapoletto. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second is made by Councilmember Hancock because it's consenting with legal counsel. Oh, any discussion on the motion?
I've got some discussion items on the motion. I just want to talk about, number one, this meeting was posted as a budget meeting from the beginning of the year. And why was there such a controversial issue posted onto our budget meeting at the last minute in the last 24 hours? You know, normally we would have something like this on our regular scheduled meetings on the first and third Thursdays of the month. But this one was thrown on our scheduled budget meeting at the last minute, which doesn't sit right with me. The ordinance also has an effective date of January 22nd, 2026, which was immediately after it was voted upon last Thursday, of which I was unable to attend. My question is, what is the urgency of the ordinance being effective immediately when normally ordinances that are voted upon take 20 to 30 days to go into effect after the minutes are approved at a subsequent meeting? Where's the urgency? What's the importance of being in so quickly? And I'll look for an answer for that in a minute. I'm not a math major, but why are we dismissing 2 commissioners We had 7, one of the commissioners' terms expired, so we're down to 6. If we get rid of 2 more, we're down to 4. I thought we just agreed that we were gonna have a 5-member commission. If we dismiss 2, we're already violating the ordinance we just passed on Thursday, because we're going down to 4 commission members instead of 5. Back in December, the city council discussed and voted on this very same issue at our last meeting in December. The language in the ordinance was presented to us at the city council. The 2 items that were in disagreement was removing commissioners without cause and without a public hearing. That was part of our current ordinance, was to have a public hearing upon request and to have a cause. What reason, what cause are you dismissing the commissioner for? You can't just say, oh, I don't like the color of their hair or the way they smell or the way they vote or the way they, all the above. So why did we do away without cause and without a public hearing? The meeting in December, all 5, or excuse me, there was only 3 present. 3 council members voted to approve that ordinance with keeping the same language of our current code from 2018 intact, to have a cause and to have a public hearing if requested. So what's interesting is last Thursday, you guys voted the minutes from that meeting, and every one of you approved those minutes from the December meeting. Did you even read the minutes? What was in that meeting? Because you just turned around 5 minutes later and changed the ordinance Thursday, which was voted on in December, that you approved the minutes on in the same meeting. Makes no sense whatsoever. You either didn't read the minutes or you don't understand the ordinance. Last thing I'm going to say is that I believe that the way things were handled after the meeting on Thursday were inappropriate. 2 of the council members called some of the commissioners and asked them to resign. One council member called one of the commissioners and said she was not being fired and that he would even like her to continue to serve on the planning commission. And ultimately said that she needed to resign anyway. The other council member also asked for a resignation, informed this person that the mayor had the needed support from the council to remove them. But as a courtesy, he was going to give her the chance to resign. Number 1, why are council members claiming to represent the entire council? That's not my opinion. That's not my voice. Don't tell people that you have the needed support from the council when that's not how I feel. Why are we doing that? You're representing yourself, not 5 members of the council. Number 2, why are you calling people asking for their resignation representing the entire city council? That's not how I feel. Why are you telling them, hey, I'm going to give you the chance to resign so you don't look bad in a public meeting? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, that's uncalled for. Anyway, that's my feelings on the issue since I wasn't here last week. Heaven forbid I missed a week. Anyway, that's my comment on the motion.
I'd like to make a comment on that as well, relating to Councilmember Hills. Right after our council meeting, we had a closed door meeting. And I don't know how many times it was said in that closed door meeting.
Councilman.
What?
Councilman, it was a closed door meeting.
But this is the important part of it.
Councilman, it was a closed door. I would advise you to keep that.
So let me just ask you, how could that information be be made, not that it has to be made public, but how could it be used? I mean, it was all recorded. But I think what was really told us
Councilman,
with,
do you need time to discuss with me privately? My advice is to keep that a closed meeting. If you have different facts, or if you've heard separately from what was in the closed meeting about what you want to discuss, that's completely fine, but that would be my advice.
okay, then let's meet. Let's
Okay.
go out and meet.
Okay, we're just going to take a brief adjournment while they go meet. Okay, did you
Okay.
still have comments that you
I
wanted to
do
make?
have a comment to
Councilmember
make.
Flowers,
So
okay.
thank you, council. So I'll state this so it's proper. At some time after that closed door meeting, a decision was made. And that decision was passed on to members of the Planning Commission. That's my comment for that. Sometime after the meeting, decisions were made.
Any other discussion? We've had a motion, we've had a second, so we can go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Just a little bit more discussion. Unfortunately, Councilman Craig is not here to give his 2 bits worth, for lack of something else. So he's been, I guess, for lack of a better word, accused of some inappropriate stuff, which I wish he was here to address, because I'm not sure the way he presented it was quite how it was presented here. And I do apologize to the public in advance for the short notice on this, but I do believe we can be accused of stealing a page from the previous city council, because I believe all of you are aware that there were a couple of occasions not too long ago when we had meetings that were presented on very short notice, amendments that were, or ordinances that were presented. And we were going to try really hard not to do that. This one seemed to have a need to be dealt with because we need to get a functioning city council put together. It obviously had some issues. We've had 2 that resigned / were removed in the last year. So we have some issues within the Planning Commission. I mean, Planning Commission people that have resigned or felt that they were pushed out. But as far as the shortness of the meeting, yes, and if I had my way, this would not be happening today, but we have some urgency. We have a lot of issues that we have to deal with. This needed to be dealt with. Some of us felt like, a majority of us felt like this needed to be dealt with. There will be information available, I believe, after this, possibly if you want to know the how and the why. And we're going to try seriously hard in the future to make sure you have time to know what the heck we're talking about, because we've had too many of these lately when the public wasn't informed of what we were going to do.
Okay, so based on that, then we're ready to do a roll call vote. Councilmember Fowers?
So
No.
I had two questions. Where's the urgency that you just brought up again? And why are we going to 4-member commissioners in this vote?
Well, we already have applications and they've been out for a while. And we are going to put, I believe, an alternate on and a 5-member council. And we've already had at least 5 applications turned back in. So we just have to go through the process of vetting them basically to see if they fit the needs of the council. So as of today, I guess we don't, but I don't know that, or of the commission, but I don't know that they are have a meeting scheduled anytime in the immediate future that will require a full commission, but I'm fairly confident that by the time their next meeting is going to be there, it will be dealt with.
So again, you just said we have applications to hire new commissioners, yet we have 2 seasoned, experienced commissioners that we're getting rid of to make room for new ones. Why is that?
Just very brief. I wrote this down. The issue is whether the planning commission and city leadership can function effectively together. I don't believe they can right now. And that would be my stance. You know what?
We're not taking outbursts from the audience.
So,
I didn't even hear what you said, and I guess it doesn't.
so just on a belief that people can't work together is why we're moving forward with this.
It's just like running a
Okay.
business. You've got to, okay. Well,
Let's just,
take
we're
a
ready
vote
for a
then.
vote. Okay, Councilmember Fowers,
Nay.
Councilmember Hancock,
Yes.
Councilmember Rapoletto, Councilmember Hill.
No.
Okay, we have a tie vote. Due to a tie vote, the mayor does, and the mayor votes yes. Okay, we're going to move on now and have our budget meeting. Anyone that would like to stay and hear about the finances of the city, you're welcome to. Thank you. Okay, will you just make sure y'all turn off your mic?
Thank you, Ryan.
Nice.
invited Jared Hancock, our public works director, to kind of go through some things as far as, and Cammie's going to go through and explain just our financials. One thing we want to tell you up front, some of you may be telling me printed out, there were 300 pages.
We're not going through all that, sorry. If you wanted to go through all that, I'm sorry to be the disappointment.
I did see that.
In the basis of transparency, you now have the check registered from July 1st of 2025 to current. So, and then we're going to discuss, and Councilor Parks, I just mentioned that in our public works director to go through some things, and then we have Cammie Moss. Sure. Oh, yes, move that out of the chamber.
Just so you don't have to go wrong. You can't see through that.
Actually, this is.
Cammie, do you want to explain a little bit first? Do you want Jared?
I'll just kind of go through real quick and then maybe Jared can intervene a little bit stuff. So thank you. So kind of the intention of this meeting is more so to go through the finances so I can explain to you what you're provided with each month as I prepare them, and just kind of give you a basic idea so that hopefully when we start more of the number part of the budget, that you'll have a better understanding of how it functions and how it works. So it's not going to be necessarily, you know, this is what we're recommending to do with budget, maybe more so this is how governmental accounting works, because it is its own kind of specialty area. So if that makes sense. So I'll just kind of go through some basic things and also refer back to the financials that you all have. No, it's not the big section, it's the little section up front. So first off, I'll explain to you what I provide every month to you so that you know. So I provide you with a monthly financial statement, and in it is just some bullet points of the information that you're provided with. And then just some kind of highlights I point out, and then of course we have to have our liability letter that, you know, everybody has to have. And then we've got the actual financial statements that are printed from the CASEL, which is the governmental accounting program we use. That goes through and that gives you some information, which I will go through and kind of explain that a little bit to you.
What's the name of that? CASEL?
CASEL, yeah.
How do you spell that?
CASELLE. Right? I think that's right. I always have to think. It's a well-known governmental accounting program. I've dealt with multiple different programs. It's by far my favorite. So it's been around forever, and it happens to be housed in Utah. So that's kind of nice. And they have some trainings that we go to and stuff on it as well. So it's a good program. And then also as part of that, I give you some tables about reserved funds. We'll go into that more detail. And then also I give you a little PowerPoint presentation that kind of, well, I'll give you the fund balance and then also the PowerPoint presentation that gives you a quick overview, kind of hopefully bird's eye view of what's going on. And then I also have started providing the full general ledger, which you do not have to print out and study. What the intention of that is if you have a question on one of the expenses, I've tried to make it a little bit easier for you to see what goes into that, okay? So the general ledger gives all the background, basically, on one of those things. So for example, if I wanted to know what the city had spent on shop tools, supplies in the sewer fund, it's account 20465550. I go through, I find that account number. If you're familiar with Adobe, you can kind of do a search, but they're in order. So you can go through, find that account number, and you can see what each expense was there. And if you have a question, by all means, reach out to me. I try not to be too scared. So I don't think I am. Am I scary now? I try not to be. So, okay. So that's basically what I give you. one other thing, just so that others know, the state does also have a transparency website. This information is required to be posted quarterly on the transparency website. I realize it's not the world's most user-friendly website, but it is available to the public and it is searchable, and the state has it on there, so I can't be held responsible for how user-friendly. But it's there. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this for us?
I have, for the city,
Mhm.
how long has it been?
Just ballpark.
How long are you in now? 3-4 years? Was it 3? It seems like it's been for a long time, but I have, before I came here, so I work for an accounting firm, Challenge Richard CPAs and Advisors, and I work through them as your treasurer. And so, yeah, so, but before I came here, I worked for another city as an assistant finance director for 13 and a half years. So I've done governmental accounting most of my life. I would, well, not quite most, but more than I want to admit. Ages me. So anyways, but when the opportunity came up to do Hooper, we had a previous girl within the firm doing it. She had some health problems and was no longer able to practice accounting. And so when the opportunity came up, I said, ooh, I want to do my own town. So anyways, so yeah, that's kind of my history a little bit. I do have a master's in accounting with an emphasis in taxation. So, but as you can see, 13 years assistant finance director, I have slept on this a lot. So.
Well, you're more experienced than anybody.
Well, and I'm still learning, you know, and so ask questions. If I don't know something, I'm not afraid to go find out. So please ask me questions. But I try to do what I can for the city and try to do the best I can. So with that said, I don't want to go take your night all night. So as Dan knows, once you give me Diet Coke, I'm going. So anyways, we'll go ahead and jump into this. But so what I'll kind of explain is there's a couple different types of funds within governmental accounting. Okay, within governmental accounting, we have your general governmental funds, and that contains your general fund and stuff and your capital projects fund. The general fund is the core items within the city. Okay, so you're looking at more so your public safety, your recreation, your parks, your highways, your community development, your cemetery, your very core parts of the city. Then we have this thing called the capital projects fund. That's for like a big project, okay? That's for like a big street improvement, like 5500 West, when we were doing all that. That was all housed in that capital projects fund, okay? So just so you kind of know where things are at, basically. And then within our city, we used to only have one fund called in our enterprise fund, that was the utility fund. And in that, it used to house all the utilities. Since I came on board, we have decided that we would like to give more information to everybody and to have each of those funds support themselves. So we broke out and we said, we're going to have 3 enterprise funds. Basically, we want the revenue from the sewer to support the expenses from the sewer, okay? We want the revenue from the garbage cans to support the expenses from the garbage cans. Same thing with your stormwater. We want your stormwater income to support the stormwater expenses. So they kind of stand on their own, okay? The thought process being that, you know, if I have 2 garbage cans, I probably ought to pay more than somebody down the street that has 1, that type of thing. So you pay for that service and you want that money that you pay directly for that service to pay for the expenses associated with that service. So that's kind of the thought process behind having each one of those in an individual section. Sewer was something that we looked at and definitely wanted to break out because we wanted those that have sewer services to pay for the sewer and those that don't, not to worry about subsidizing those. So each one of those things should pay for itself, okay? So then if we look at the next slide.
You say should. are they?
We'll go into that.
Okay.
Hold that.
Okay.
If I don't answer it by the end, grab me back, okay?
Okay.
Bring me back. So, I think we've done a really good job in getting them closer,
Okay.
but I won't say 100% yet, okay? Okay, so, within the general fund, of course, we have revenues. We need to have money. And so if you look on the financial statements that I provide you, like page 3, and a couple of those pages, I'll just kind of keep referring back to those so you know where you find these things. But on like page 3 and 4, it goes into the revenues. The types of revenues that we have within the general fund are taxes, okay, which makes sense. You want your taxes to pay for those core services, such as your police, your inspections, stuff like that. Okay, so property taxes, we have sales tax, we have a utility franchise tax. So any taxes go into this general fund to pay for this. We also have our licenses, like our business licenses, those go into there. We get some special money called Classy Roads. We all love Classy Roads, don't we, Jared? They help pay for our roads to be kept up. And we have some restrictions on those monies, but that's one of the sources of money that we get.
It's generated from the gas tax.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where that is. I just seen the sarcasm there, and so I'm trying to figure out what you really
Yeah.
don't like about it.
No, we love it. We love that Class C roads money, but
Okay.
yes, it's not enough. That's the thing. Is, we get X amount, but our road projects are definitely, we get this much and our road projects are here. So there's definitely.
So this is being recorded.
Yes.
There's 60 miles of road, we know, and I'm just saying that so, because I have that question asked me a lot, so just for the Hooper residents. Is that correct, 60 miles?
Something like that, but that's a weighted lane when I do that. So it's a little different than most people think of it. And there's like a formula, so you have 2 lanes, so if you're maintaining a mile of road, 2 lanes or 4 lanes, or so they have a ratio.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's not necessarily.
Close, though.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
your
you
square
could have more
footage.
asphalt to maintain in 2 lanes, you have a shoulder, or you could have a turn lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can Hooper a turn lane?
Well, it's creative.
Yeah.
So, and then we have our liquor funds, which are very minimal, but we do get those. We also get some smaller grants into this fund, zoning, we get some cemetery fees, parks, community events, fines. Those are all the types of things that you'll see as revenue into this general fund revenue. Okay, the next slide talks about the expenses within the general fund. Okay, so within the general fund, you will notice that on the next pages, we've got some kind of subcategories there. We have some various categories of expenses, and these categories are your administration, which is the day-to-day operation of the city, okay, or your general government. Excuse me. Your public safety is the payment that we pay for the police services from Weaver County, your animal control, crossing guards, all those expenses go there. Your recreation includes your tomato days, the Halloween haunt, those types of things. Your roadways include your roadside mowing, your crack seals, the spending of the Class C roads money. Parks is minor repairs and mowing for those parks. Community development, inspections, those expenses go there, and then the cemetery. And then we have this other thing called transfer to capital projects. Okay, so that leads us, well, hold on, I'll come back to that capital projects in just 1 second. Give me a second. I'll explain that more. Okay, because you're probably like, what is that capital project transfer? Let me explain. So, the state law requires us to stay within parameters of our fund balance. Our fund balance is basically your equity if you have a business. Okay? And it's saying, okay, we have this fund balance. We can't have too much in there because then we're collecting too much money. But we have to have enough in there to make sure that we can operate, right? We don't want to have, we kind of have to stay within these parameters. So the parameters that the state has set is that we have to stay within 5 to 35% of our city's revenues, okay? So we can't have too much, but we can't have too little. So we kind of have to find that sweet spot. We kind of usually try to keep that around 25%, okay? That's a good sweet spot number we feel. So it does not mean that we can't save money for like a big project, but it means that we need to kind of have plans for that money, that it's going to go towards something big. It can't just go towards the operation. Okay.
So we can exceed that if it's earmarked, so to speak, for something.
Yes, and how we earmark that is to push over into that capital project fund. Does that make sense? So we're kind of saying we're saving towards some big things because, you know, you might need a new truck or a new snowplow, okay? A new snowplow is a lot of money. We all know that. And Jared, how much are they up to? Yeah.
Just the plow or the plow?
Just for the plow, yeah. So, but the whole truck, like if we went with a 10-wheeler, that's a 10-wheeler, they're kind of,
Pushing on 300,000.
yeah.
You're gonna have them salivate over there in a second.
Yeah, yeah. It's not cheap. You're like, sorry, Jared, I'm just throwing you under the bus to get an idea. But they're not cheap is the point, okay?
So once we move that money into that capital,
Project.
can we ever move it back?
We can, but I don't really advise that.
Okay.
Okay, because you want that general fund to operate that day to day. And you really want to every year put a little bit of that money into the savings account for this truck or these other things.
How long can we leave it in there?
In the capital projects, you can move it in until you use it. Okay. Don't get your hopes up, Jared. So, for example, say we collected all of the budgeted revenue in 26, okay? So we collected $4,115,000. Our minimum restricted fund balance would be 205, which is 5% of that. Our maximum fund balance would be 1,440,000. So you can see, you know, we can go a little bit skewampus if we wanted to, but we don't want to. Okay, so if we look at the next slide, what we are at is we are currently at about 21%. Okay, that's okay. That's a good place to be. You know, that's a comfortable place. Okay, 25 is kind of our, you know, woohoo, we're right where we want to be, but 21 is not bad. We're right in that range. Okay, but how this is calculated is we have to look at some of the funds and say some of them are restricted. Okay, so some of those monies, that Class C money, we have to only use for Class C. So that doesn't get calculated into that formula, okay? It's held out. Our local option transportation, that's held out. Our emergency preparedness that the previous council put into place, that we are holding 5% of our franchise tax into that. That is kind of held out. So we kind of can have those other things that are restricted funds saved and not have that calculated into that balance.
So if we're taking 5% out into emergency preparedness and that, and we get into where we have too much money there, what do we do with that other 5%? Can
That
we send it
5%
anywhere else?
It can stay there. It's restricted. So it doesn't count towards that 20.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Class C, the local option and that don't have to be used in that.
So eventually you could get $100,000, $200,000 there and.
Yeah.
And then
I
can
would
you define,
recommend it.
okay, yeah, so if you don't recommend it, so then what do we do with that money?
You
Just
spend
don't-
it on emergency preparedness. what
And
is
we can
mental,
define
or
emergency preparedness.
the count, there's not been anything to define it,
Okay.
as far as I know. I mean, I'm not the legal counsel by no means. So, but as far as I have seen and remember, I don't believe there's anything. And if the council wanted to make a motion to move some from there, they certainly could because of the type of restriction, okay? But your class, just 2 seconds, okay? The class C and the local option, you cannot because that's state restricted. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Have we ever used anything from the emergency? Well, where did we find that trailer?
That's where that trailer came from.
So there was and all the stuff in it. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we completely put all this stuff in it yet.
He was asking for what we've purchased so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Whether we're using anything.
Very good question. Yes. Yes. And of course, the class C and the local option, Jared's using that for road repairs, which is exactly what we need to be using it for. So, and as part of those, let's go to the next slide and then I'll say the next part. With the next slide, as of December 31st, we had, you look in the general fund and say, oh, we've got a $2.9 million fund balance. Well, or cash balance. That doesn't mean we get to spend all that money, okay? Some of that money is restricted money. It's restricted for roads, for your local option, for your reserved utility, emergency preparedness. So restricted cash, your unrestricted cash is only one. Okay. So just kind of give you an idea that when you see that cash number, it doesn't mean you have that much cash to spend. You've got to kind of say, I've got this savings account here, this savings account here, and this savings account here, that money has to kind of fit you. Does that make sense?
We got our affiliate covered with the sheriff's.
We are public safety or police, we're only at 25%. So we're gonna be hit with another $186,000 bill.
How much is it a year?
It's about 746,000.
Is that getting bumped?
And it's supposed to go.
What percent are we paying the actual crimes that some committed or call committed compared to population? What's the
Yeah, I
percent?
remember I think it was 40% population and 60%.
Yes, is it still there? It used to be 50-50.
Yeah, it's still the same.
Okay, so, and like I said, I'm not going into a lot of numbers tonight because I want to help you understand the financials so that when we get into budget, it hopefully makes more sense and you can put more input in. So I'm hoping this is helpful. I don't know. I'm hoping. So, okay, so the next section is your capital projects fund, which is Fund 30. So it's the back of those financials that I've given you. Within that capital projects fund, the things that fund that is your impact fees, maybe some larger grants. Sherry's great at getting larger grants. So, you know, we see more larger grants. Reimbursements from the county or the state. And then of course you transfer some money there for general fund. The expenses that go into this fund are your large expenses, your 10-wheeler, your roads that need major repairs. The ones that we've had this last little bit, we've got some of the 5500 West project, 5100 project, some parks and trails, some cemetery improvement, that type of thing. So that's how we're funding those big projects, is kind of in that separate section. So as you're looking at things and you're saying, oh, it's not here in the general fund, remember we got that capital projects fund. That is for the large things pertaining to the core services, okay? So kind of keep that in mind.
A lot of those big expenditures are even bigger than what we pay for using that as our match towards.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of the larger grants, they come into there. Like we had this year, on page 21, you'll see a RAMP grant. We've got 190,000 of that. We've got 269 budgeted, and then, you know, we've got the expenditures over here. Same with that 5500 West for Davis, we're expecting a 2.6 million, but then we budgeted 3.1. So the difference of that is our match. So we have to budget for the revenue from the grant, and then the full expense goes out. So they do both. Does that help? Okay. Okay. Let me know if I'm losing anybody. So, okay. So the next thing I'll go into is our enterprise funds. Okay. Again, these are kind of the things that we want to self-support. Okay. Within these funds, they do pay for the large expenses. I'm pointing that out because we've got a lot of large things going on right now in the sewer system, okay? That's probably an understatement, Jared. But basically within the sewer fund, what we have is, this is, your sewer fund is based on accrual counting, okay? Your normal business accounting. Your governmental ones are based on what they call a modified accounting. So it's a governmental accounting. So it is kind of different. Like this. Okay. But this is more based on like your business financials. Okay. So the things that we collect, and you've seen on your utility bill that we collect the revenues from the sewer fund, revenues for the sewer fund. And then we also collect the fees for Central Weber Sewer District. We try to have that exactly matched. The idea is money in, money out on the Central Weber Sewer District. So the money we collect on your utility bill that stands for that is brought into the city. We don't get any of that money. It goes straight to them. They spend it how they're going to spend it. Okay. But the other portion is meant for us to keep up our portion of the system, okay? And so that's kind of what that revenue is. The other thing we collect is an impact fee. Those that are familiar with impact fees, you'll know how valuable they are, I hope. Impact fees is basically saying to a developer, you build that house within our city, you have an impact on our system, okay? You need to pay that impact that you're having on our system, okay? So we're going to charge you an impact fee to pay for the impact you're having on our system, okay? Now, you have to have, you can't just come up with a number, okay? As much as we'd love to say, hey, developer, it's going to be $200,000. You can't do that, okay? What you have to do is you have to actually have an impact fee set.
And that's what we're
doing.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes, and it is key, in my opinion, to keep that up, because the idea being is that the cost of that service is going to go up, and that developer, yeah, they'd love to make some extra money, and that's great, but at the end of the day, you as a user don't want to pay for that developer's profit, right? So that developer needs to pay for what impact they're having. Again, the state has really cracked down on regulating that. We have to have that study in order to do that. We have to have that study to designate what we're spending it on. And such. They have really cracked down on that. So we not only want to stay up to date on that because we're collecting the right amount for the impact that the developers are having, but also we're able to spend that on the proper things and have the proper documentation so the state will allow us to continue.
So how often should we be doing that?
You know, typically 6-7 years is not a bad, you know, thing.
I mean, right, you're missing out on the revenue of the increase of inflation. You're charging 20 years ago's prices for land and all of the things in the back.
6-7 years sounds like a long time.
That's
Yeah,
just
and
what I'm
some
saying,
cities.
that seems longer
can do like mini studies in between, which is always recommended to monitor, of course. And so you can basically, once you have, and ours is so old that I think we have to pretty much start from scratch to do it, right? Is that kind of what?
Well, the laws changed since we've originally done them, and there's two parts. So there's the impact fee analysis, and then the impact fee. You're basically studying what you need, and that's constantly changing. Developers are giving us infrastructure. We can't charge for that. It was donated. Parts the city's paid for, so that there's a part where we figure out what we have out there and how much that's worth, and then a separate financial person has to do the analysis, and that's what Cody Dieter that was here the other day, he's done those for us. And they have to be separate from the city.
So when I say 6 or 7, I'm thinking infrastructure part, but you want to monitor that smaller part continually. So, you know, maybe we need to look at, you know, continually just kind of putting the pointer out there and saying, hey, has it changed very much? Yes, okay, we need to redo it, okay?
So my question, Jerry, with our sewer system, I mean, could we go that long where there's so many mechanical things going on with everything that's moving? That's going to be a little different type of fee, wouldn't it be?
I'm not quite following your
Well,
question.
sometimes Mother Nature has, gravity, where gravity fed places. I would think there wouldn't be as much change over a few years in that type of system than one like we have. But there's always mechanical things.
So they're really not designed for the maintenance.
Yeah.
Of it. It's mainly for the impact of what did it cost. If we build a $1 million pipeline and someone comes in and they're gonna utilize that, what's their impact of that $1 million that we spent?
Has to increase capacity to spend that impact fee. So you can't spend that impact fee to repair the pump that's already sitting there. You have to use, if that pump that's sitting there goes bad, you can't use the impact fees to pay for that. But if you bought a new pump to increase the capacity that the other pump is also doing, then you can spend it.
So you buy a bigger pump, we're in good shape.
Well, if you buy a bigger pump, you can only use the difference. Replacement versus the bigger pump. So it has to increase capacity is the best way to do it. But you can preset, meaning that if you go in and you get a big debt, because I mean, realistically, okay, you have 100 houses come in, okay? Well, you can't just go in and put that infrastructure in once you get the revenue for that 100 houses. That doesn't make sense. So you can pre-spend, meaning that you can go negative with impact fees for that and then collect as those houses are connected. Meaning you can go into debt and use impact fees to pay for debt for that increased capacity. Does that
So the
kind of-
majority of our sewer impact fees now are on the vacuum system. We have the loan that we have to pay the state, and those impact fees are automatically taxed for that.
That's where my income is.
Which we've got 0% interest on. So yeah.
Can we just a big number?
Yeah, we're still joking.
Just a quick example, so we have 900 homes that are connected on West Havens line on 1,500. Now we're gonna have to put our own, and it costs about 900,000. Well, at the time, we would have had an impact fee study, would have said, as each of your homes, we would have charged you $1,000. We would have had $900,000 sitting there, but we didn't. So now we have this whole new force main that now we're doing. So that's the purpose of it, is so we have that money set aside for that impact.
So those guys we talked to the other day, they'll help us do that. Is that right?
Yes, if we did a CRA, that is something we put to the CRA to do that force main.
And aren't we over what we were supposedly in our new local agreement with West Haven, will be like 300 houses presently
over what we were originally supposed to have. Then whatever it's called, you know, okay, so we need to deal with that, obviously.
Anyway, so that's, you're right, that impact fee study is just, it's important to keep up on those. Because it really does provide the city with that valuable source. Your connection fee, with the connection fee, that's the fee for putting that water meter in, for putting that sewer line to the lot so that somebody can connect to it, okay? And the state, again, has really thumbed down on that you can't just say, I feel like sending or charging them $10,000. No, you have to say, you know, that's pipe cost me $100. The equipment to put it in cost me, you know, this much. And so you have to have substantiation behind those connection fees. You can't just come up with it. So, and that's something that state auditor has really come down on as well in the last couple of years, which makes sense. Because, you know, I'll be honest, I saw people charging these atrocious connection fees and you're like, oh, where did that come from? You know, it was more than what they should be charging.
How have we been doing? Okay.
We've probably been under, if anything. So, yeah, we're not in violation, but we definitely need to always keep on track with those. Just as kind of FYI, I'm a big fan of always keeping your fee schedule up to date. And so last year we really put a push and there was a fee schedule pushed and pushed through. I like to see it as every year reviewed as part of the budget. So that every year we are looking at it and we're getting the idea of where we're at, if we need to adjust them, and then we just adopt it every year as part of the budget. It keeps it up to date, keeps it fresh in our mind. We're always thinking about it and it's just always there, you know, that it's part of the budget. We adopt the budget, we adopt that. Perfect, move on, you know. So I like to do that because then it does allow us to say, hey, Jared, will you look at these fees? Oh, it might not, sorry, Jared, I'm picking on you because you're here. But yeah, he's great. So, but then we can monitor that and keep up on those fees a little bit more on top of them. So that will be kind of something that we'll look at as part of the budget process. So.
And our new connection fees, by the way we did it past that last
time
fee schedule, we just get a deposit, get the work done, keep all the receipts, and that's what we charge the customer. We don't make a dime off of them, but they pay all the expense. But they were so, I mean, one could be 10,000, the next one could be 20,000. So we can't just set a specific fee and it fits all, and we don't want to go in the hole for it. So we just give them that to a cost.
And that's a great, you know.
You do that like per unit or housing unit? Yeah, the bigger developments, they just have to handle it on their own, but if it's a minor subdivision, where it's just a homeowner putting money in. Yeah. They don't want to have to worry about vacuum sewer to order their own parts and stuff, so they just have, you know, they pay the cost.
And it's nice to have the same parts with them. You know, it's like, you know, with a water meter, you don't want everybody having different. That makes sense for you. So cities have to do this, you know, it's a common thing. Okay, so we'll jump to the next slide. This is more on the expenses of what goes into the sewer fund. So you'll notice that as part of the sewer fund, we did that budget for the current portion of the note. We currently have, the note is 6.5 $6,550,000 is what we owe on that note. Our current year portion is 530. So of course we need to budget to plan for that expense. The other thing that goes into that is the system portion of the administration fees, such as your attorney, your engineering. So you'll notice in the general fund, we have some attorneys, some engineering, some accounting, but these funds need to pay their portion of that as well, right? So we need to allocate that out, okay? So as we're doing expenses, we're monitoring that. We're saying, you know, sewer needs to pay part of the insurance, part of the computers. They have a wage in there because we've got some employees that need to do the repairs in there.
bills, wages for operations, minor repairs, and then our big repairs. We went through last year as part of the budget, and I won't pull it up tonight in sense of time, but last year we came up with a 5-year plan. And we said, okay, Jared, poor Jared, he really got hit on this last year. But we said, okay, in the next 5 years, get out your crystal ball. And we want you to tell us what things need done. And it's not pretty all, I guess, sorry guys. But we came up with a 5-year plan, and we said, we realize that this may not stay exactly how it is. You know, we may plan for a pump in year 3, but that pump goes out in year 1, and we have to adjust, and we're willing to adjust. But let's get a 5-year plan, and let's kind of say, over the next 5 years, what are the repairs that we know we are gonna have to do? Because we've got some major repairs on that system, unfortunately. So we said, okay, if we kind of even that out, and try to keep that consistent over the next 5 years, what do we need funds-wise to collect from the users to pay for that? Now, if it ends up that we get ahead and we don't need as much, great, we lower rates, but unfortunately, that's not really realistically gonna happen, unfortunately, with the schools and what we've got in front of us, from what I've seen. So, but if it ever happens, fantastic, great, awesome. But if not in the next 5 years, don't plan on it. So anyways, we kind of tried to say over the next 5 years, this is what our game plan. Now this next year, we've got year 1 done. Jared, what did you do? We're gonna look and see, we're gonna cross those off, then we're gonna kind of spread that over the next 5 years. We're gonna keep adding, so we have a 5-year plan. Doesn't mean that's what we stick to, something catastrophic could happen, we have to keep doing. But at least we have a plan, is the thought process. So those are the major repairs. And the idea is that, you know, some years we may have to use some rainy day savings funds in that sewer, but at the end of the period, we're hoping that we at least come out pretty good, you know, that not necessarily the city's making money, but it's paying for that sewer system. And that, you know, we aren't having to steal money from the general fund to pay for that sewer system. Yes.
So just rough math, you're basically looking at a $530,000 payment for approximately 11 more years.
It goes up a little bit every year, but yeah. 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 I think it's actually 5 more or 10 more years we've got, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to look at the financials. Out of the audit and look at that and see that. Yeah.
At least it's a consistent number.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. And it is 0% interest.
The bottom line doesn't change, but doesn't the payment goes up?
Yeah, the payment goes up every year a little bit.
So the
So, yeah.
6.5 million. That's why you get paid off in 10 instead of 11, because I'm not a math major.
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
can't do that in 10, 530.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it goes up a little bit every year.
Okay.
So, and like I said, the payment schedule is in the audit financial side.
So what determines that?
They have set a payment schedule. When we engaged in the loan,
Initially.
they set it.
Yeah, it was based on growth projections. How they figured you'd grow enough and have a bigger payment each year. Have we?
But the expenses are higher, so, and we've got more breakdowns, more
I mean,
repairs,
definitely grow
so,
and have more connections, but
yeah.
just curious.
Yeah, so, so that's kind of the sewer fund. If you ask me, you know, where the sewer fund's at, it's, if we do all the repairs that we're needing, we are going to have to do gradual increases, you know, that's unfortunate. But on the same token, yeah, on the same token, you know, like I said, we're monitoring that. We're not trying to say, oh, huge increase 1 year and then nothing. You know, we're trying to do a steady rate because you know, I'm like you guys, I don't want to pay more in my utilities. I don't want to pay more in my fees, but unfortunately, the price of things is going up.
In your interpretation, what would you consider gradual?
Well, I think last year, well, let me pull it up. What we did,
One thing last year, Central Weaver increased their fee. We passed, so if theirs was, I can't remember now if it was 5%. That's heavier.
it was pretty bad, yeah.
Or even 8%, and we pass that on because if their rate goes up 5%, and we don't have ours go up, and we're way in the hole. So.
I was just
Yeah,
curious.
so we.
So they did 6% is what they did, yeah.
So we
At
bumped our
6%. We did our 6.25. So we,
Yeah, we covered.
yeah, I mean, ideally, I would like to see nothing, but realistically, we're probably, going to be looking around a 5% if inflation continues to grow.
At least. Okay.
Well, that's one other thing that I don't like at all, but it is what it is. Our vacuum sewer system's proprietary. There's one place to buy the parts. When we put the system in, a controller, which is basically on every residence, was about $80. They're about 470. You want them, you buy it. If you don't.
Yeah.
So that would be, in percentage wise of like increase, that would be huge. I haven't calculated it out, but it's not a 2 or 3% a year gonna cover costs like that.
This might be a good time if you want to expand a little on.
Yeah.
While we're talking about.
Right.
So we have that 5-year plan and our systems, I don't want people to panic like it's gonna fall apart tomorrow.
It's not
But we
gonna
have
fall
some
apart.
real
But we have.
needs. And as I discussed these with Darren, I said, let's get our wish list together. And he says, wish list, these are, you don't buy these, we won't be in the sewer business. So they're a little more than a wish, but, what, and I've got, I made you guys all a copy of this. This is kind of our addition to our 5-year plan, if you would. We found a lot of our pumps, like our vacuum pumps in the vacuum station, they're rated at like 20,000 hours and they need a rebuild. Many of ours have 30,000 hours on. So our guys have done a great job maintaining them. They're still working for us, but we know we're on borrowed time. Last year, the council gave us approval to buy an additional pump. We have a space in there, so we've got out of that pump, and what that gives us the ability to do is take one out of service, send them back to Airvac and have them rebuild without compromising the system. So we're in the process of that. That's been working well, but there's 3 original ones. So it's gonna take us a while to get all of those removed, sent back to Indiana, rebuilt, back and in service. But we are in a better position now that we've got that 4th pump. But there's just so many components in there that are in that type of situation. They're at the end of their normal lifespan and are gonna need to be replaced. So like the number 1 item we've got there is just that's not on the vacuum system, that's on the gravity. And so we have redundant pumps in the gravity lift stations, and 1 pump runs at a time and then it alternates back and forth. So if we lose a pump, we're still in business, but we have something happens then, the people are out of sewer service, so we want to avoid that. Has that happened yet? No, and when I first started here, we could take a pump over and have it rebuilt in a week or so in town. Those days have gone by. So we're in a position now, we just have to stock a spare. And if we have something go out in the middle of the night, we can take our equipment out, remove it, put the spare in. And so we've done that, and this number 1 is to replace our spare.
So here's a question for emergency preparedness. If that happened one day, we can take money out of emergency preparedness or not?
You could amend the budget in this. The general fund can move money into enterprise fund with the proper notice.
Okay.
To move money from an enterprise fund into the general fund is much harder than the general fund. Can you do it? Yes.
And I guess how we're asking to operate is to have that spare. The citizens never know we have a problem. We go get it replaced and then we have a little bit of time to finance replacement of the spare. But I don't want to get down to where we're talking about whether we can or can't buy one when nobody can flush their toilet. So yeah, that's how we've kind of been operating, and I think we need to continue. We have tried to size some of the pumps more, so we use one spare to serve maybe 2 locations rather than have a spare for every location, so that's helped a little bit. The number 2 there, so all of the lift stations but one have a backup generator. If the power goes out, generator will come on and operate the system. There's a transfer switch in those that they were original equipment, and we have a maintenance contract on those generators, and they're supposed to exercise every week and actually simulate that so that we know that will happen if the power goes out. One of those transfer switches has failed, and it still the system will work, but we have to manually go convert it. So they need to be replaced, and they are not cheap. You can see the number out there to this side. There's 3 of those on each. And we actually got a bid for that one. All of these ones, I believe we have bids for. Maybe by the time we award them, they'll have gone up a little bit. That'll give you a rough idea what we're looking at.
Do you have a lot of entities that will put bids in on this, or is there very few entities involved? Because I like on that.
Kind of depends what it is. There's a lot of them. There's just 1 or 2 people that do that work. Some things there's many.
I like the
Airbag stuff is proprietary, so we buy it from them. The number 3 is so that first one is for Jennings Park. That's under the facility categories, JP. 3 Lakeview and Hooper Landings can share that replacement pump, but we need to purchase that. Number 4 is the VFD replacements for the town and north and the low vacuum station. So there's variable frequency drives in there. They don't really, we've had some last years and some half that we don't get any indicator when they go out. But that electronic stuff seems like when it breaks in just a couple of years, they say, well, they're obsolete. It's not something that they have anymore. You can order it. So ultimately, we need to replace those VFDs in those 3 stations. And there's for that. Number 5 is going to be a pretty big bill. And I put temperature control system because air conditioning sounds like that's for my employees, and that's not that at all. So all of this equipment, some of you have been on a tour of these vacuum stations. There's a lot of equipment in there that all generates heat. In the summer, when our ambient temperature gets up around 100, those buildings are like 130, 140, and the electronics start to shut down because they're too hot. And so I actually worked with Taylor, the city engineer, and we got a separate company to come in and tell us how many tons of cooling we need to keep that equipment at the right temperature. We have a quarter of what we're supposed to have currently. So those are going to need a major revamp. We haven't put that out to bid yet, but I'm guessing that'll be in the hundreds of thousands. Okay.
These air conditioning companies.
Okay. So that's something coming up that we've got to do before it gets hot, and we'll be bringing that. Like I say, I don't ever want you to think I'm telling you what we need to do, but these aren't really options that we have much wiggle room on. Number 6, the PLC. So basically the brains of the computer that runs that whole system, they're original. almost every part in them is obsolete, and they need to be updated as well, and you can see that price tag. It's amazing, one little glitch in that computer program shuts the whole zone down. We do have a bid for that. Ventilation fan, so those of you familiar with sewage, there's a H2S gases that get created, and it's very corrosive to all of our equipment, even concrete. This ventilation fan circulates that and keeps it moving so that we don't get corrosion on our equipment. One of those has failed. Have a price for that as of yet. Speculate. The vacuum pump exchange, that's what I spoke of earlier, where we're taking an existing pump out, sending it back, having it rebuilt, and reinstalling it. They send us a spare, so we're not without one. They send us one, we send one of ours back. We're working on that, working through the stations as we speak. We have a gravity manhole where the transfer pumps pump around to the wet well at each one of these vacuum stations. And those manholes, the H2S gas is eating them so bad you can take a riding pin like this and push it right through the side of a concrete manhole.
So that why it stings when we drive over the manhole?
Yeah. So those may be addressed soon. We did set some of the ARPA money aside for that. I think 83, 280, I got there on that budget amount. But our bid that came in to remedy that one of those, we had 3 of those, was 374, 276.
What did you say?
We only have 52,000 for ARPA.
Okay. So you can see the
And it
discrepancy.
really is reserved for projects. It's
We're-
not ARPA anymore. We can't call it.
We're gonna look at some other options other than this bid we got, but that was the first fix to those. One thing that people don't realize, new construction, this would be a quarter of that. We can't shut anything down to work on it. We've got to bypass, you know, the sewer is gonna keep coming 24/7. So dealing with that becomes pretty costly. But we are gonna look at some other options on those that hopefully we can get it cheaper than that, because that's to do all 3 of them, another $1 million. And the 10th one is just replacing the we're rebuilding a pump. There was one that wasn't totally shot. I thought they could rebuild it. It's about 70% and have them rebuild at the cost of a new one. So we just have to wait. They thought this one was worth rebuilding, so we're having that rebuild. And then the only other thing I didn't have on my list that I spoke with Darren about earlier, we have a stock of components for the vacuum system that we keep, like a controller. If it fails and we're out there at midnight, we just put a new controller on. That's depleted down to where we need to make another order, 50,000 to get a new stock of valves, controllers, breathers, all of those components. That just keeps our guys able to serve the citizens when something goes wrong. We have the parts and stock to do it.
I just did a rough math of the ones you actually have listed on here, and we're over $70,000 just in that stuff without any of the not specifically listed ones.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see where the 5-year plan became very helpful, because we realized, you know, Jared's telling me all these things, and as he's telling me the other day, or last year, I was like, I was like, I'm having a heart attack, so I said, hold on, let's, you know, try, and I realized that, you know, again, we realize things don't always happen in that order, so it's like, Jared, we're putting together a 5-year plan, we're gonna keep moving this, we're gonna keep adjusting this, and that's where we realized we've given Jared X amount of money within those funds and said, okay, yeah, we have this much for crack fill, this much for road repairs and stuff. But Jared, use that money the best you can. We trust you, you know, and well.
Those items are easily, you know, there's a lot of bidders on those items, so that we do get competitive pricing. Unfortunately, it's just expensive to do that kind of work.
I mean, just for example, in the general fund, sorry, I'm jumping back, but just to kind of pat Jared on the back, because that's a lot of work that these guys did, these public works guys did this year. But on highways, you know, they did, well, just as of December, they did about $1,100,000 worth of overlays and surface maintenance, which is a lot of work. So kudos to them. And, you know, you say, yeah, you hire out a contractor, but they gotta, you know, babysit that and monitor it and go out and tell them what to do. And I know Jared and Cody were out a lot doing that. So, you know, they do a lot of work, and they honestly, you know, look at it and they say, is it better to, you know, while we're on this road, is it better to crack seal a little bit further or to overlay, or which is the better cost for the money, and monitor that. And so, you know, giving them the resources, but unfortunately that type of money doesn't go very far. Unfortunately, it's just flat out expensive, as we all know, everything is. So go to the grocery store.
I did, just for conversation, I looked up so you can go on UDOT and there's a tab doing business, and then you can go to BNC road fund allocation. So that, 57.32 paved miles of their miles, that equates to 286.6 lane miles. So basically, if you were gonna plow every street, every lane with one truck, you drive 286.6 miles. There's a lot more than you think when you hear 57.
And, you know, like I said, we spent that type of money, but our Class C roads money brought in, we have budgeted about $500,000. So, you know, we were spending some of our reserves in that money to do these road projects, because we've got quite a bit there, and we all know that the roads definitely can use some help, but we don't have it. Yeah, they don't. So it's not, you know, it's just where you want to spend the money and what you want.
And I don't think it's bad practice to keep, I mean, we could have, there's a storm drain list out there of about 13 items. Some of those are $1 million items, maybe more. I think we need to keep on that, but if one of those fails, we can get it taken care of without being in trouble.
Especially if it's coming from my house.
Come on. So, okay, so we'll go back. Are you good then?
Yeah.
Okay. We will, so we've talked about the sewer fund. Let's jump to the next fund, which is the garbage. Pretty simple fund. Basically, we charge a garbage fee, your recycling. We want the fee that we charge for those to pay for the service. So the idea is the revenue in, revenue out, we match out. Keep in mind though, one thing that people often forget, we have the collection costs, the tipping costs, but we also have to bill for that. So within the garbage fund, you'll see that there is wages, there is postage, because it's only fair they pay for, you know, fee to send out that bill, that utility bill. And the next fund is the stormwater fund, and the revenues for the stormwater fund, again, is your stormwater fee that is on your utility bill. And so we collect those funds and then we allocate the expenses. Again, you'll see there's wages, there's billings, minor repairs, attorneys, all that type of stuff. So just so you're kind of familiar with what goes into each fund. I know this year also there's a big push on the SWIP. The state, we went through the audit with the state, you know, SWIP's gonna, we
Yeah, there's probably our biggest ticket item. We've been pretty good at mapping and keeping our GIS up on the new subdivision since we've been a city. We've never spent the money to go out and map all of the existing stuff. The state wants that electronically, and that was a finding. And so we proposed doing it over 4 years. And they came back and said, no, we want it that way. So that's, we have to figure that.
So stormwater is definitely something.
And I think, I hope, if you don't understand, I can spend a little more time, I'll just briefly hit it. There is a difference between storm drain and storm water.
And Jared's always correcting me on this, so.
So the stormwater and the fee that we charge is to pay for this oversight and meeting the state and the federal requirements for the clean water. Storm drain is the pipes and the drain ditches. That's still really underfunded. We don't have much that helps pay for that. We can take excess money from the stormwater fee and allocate that for storm drain maintenance, but we can't.
Can go backwards.
Yeah.
Jared, have you got any good news in that? Poor guy, geez.
Sorry,
Man.
for the list that Jared
I
gave us
know, I feel horrible.
years
for him.
ago, and
I
there's certain
know.
projects and
Probably more.
there's probably,
Yeah.
haven't been that many.
Yeah,
So,
so as,
If
you
the
know,
electrical engineer says you walk around with the GPS and the roads, like he's explaining to us, that'd be a heck of a project for the citizens, right? Community service. I mean, it really is like Lakes Point. We're actually looking into that. I have an individual who has said they might be willing to, or even if you don't. It's okay. I'll give you my picture.
oh. So when I send you, you can go ahead and jump to the next slide, real quick. When I send you the financials, you'll get this summary sheet or this slideshow too. It's meant to just kind of give you a quick overview as to what, you know, where we're at and stuff. So go ahead and jump on the next slide, sorry. So you'll see that it shows you the revenues, the budget, where we're at, what percentage we're at, and then I also point out what percentage of the year. Now, as we look at the budget, one thing that we do is we have different line items within, say, again, I'm gonna pick on Jared, sorry, Jared, within highways, okay? We have all these different line items. But overall, the state auditor has came out and said, as long as highways stays within their budget, you're not in violation. So that's one thing that we look at is, you know, again, we may budget this much for, you know, overlay, this much for crack seal, but is that money better used in an overlay? Possibly. Jared can grab from that to pay for that because it's within that category. So we have to stay within budget, within the category, not line items. So, and the financials break it out for line items. This is just meant to more so be a summary. So I won't go through this page by page in light of your time and everything, but if you ever have a question on it, feel free to contact me. I try not to be too scary. I will admit from about February 1st to April 15th of my time, sometimes it takes me a minute to get back to you. But just bear with me and I will definitely do my best to get back to you and help you with any questions that you have. So feel free to reach out to me. There's something that I think I missed. Do you guys have questions? Please feel free.
As we went.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we start on the budget, just a couple things so you know. One thing I would encourage you to read is to read the ordinance. Morgan can definitely send it to you for the purchasing procedures. The ordinance sets what the procedure is to purchase within the city. If you have a problem with how the procedure is done, that is where you change the ordinance as a council, okay? The budget is the document that basically authorizes us to do this. State law requires us to pass a tentative budget by May, the last meeting in May. We're gonna shoot for the first meeting in May. I really want to take a vacation for tax season, you guys. Sorry. So we're gonna shoot for the first meeting in May. I hope you don't mind. But, so we'll hopefully adopt a tentative budget then. And this is, of course, if we don't do any property tax increase, okay? So we have to have that adopted by the final meeting in May as a tentative, and that's just saying, hey, everybody, we're working on this, we'll put thought into this. The public can look at it, kind of give some thoughts into it, but it's not final, okay? It's still a working document. And then the final budget does have to be adopted by the final meeting in June. And that basically is the budget, the final budget, okay? But does that mean that this is written in stone? No, absolutely not. A budget is a working document. You can amend it as often as you want. Do I advise that? No, because, you know, none of us want to have that. But on the same token, could you? Yes. Is it bad to amend it? No. Do we always usually amend them once a year? Yes, we usually amend them at least once a year. But we can amend. Can the budget, you know, the council could approve an expense if something happens, and then we amend the budget. We can certainly, you know, take some steps that way. So it's a working document. But state law says we do have to adopt a budget if we are not doing a property tax increase by that date, last meeting in June. And so hopefully by then, you know, I know last year we had several budget meetings. Hopefully, you know, you will have the opportunity to ask your questions, to go through it, to have your opinion. I want your guidance. This is not a document that I'm saying, you know, here it is. I'm saying this is the best information I've given, and you're relying on my expertise and the information I've gathered to come up with this. But by all means, if you guys have input, please give it. You know, if you have a concern about a part of it, let's talk about it. And hopefully by the time, my idea is that by the time we go to that June meeting, we've all seen enough, we're tired of it. And we all just are like, yeah, we're on board with this. This is a good budget to start with, okay? So that's what the hope is. If we do decide to do a property tax increase, then we do have to determine that and notify the county and the state and do various things. DMT, truth in taxation is what we call it, the whole process. So if that's something that we decide we're going to entertain, you know, we'll look at that. One thing I will point out, I'll just give a quick little crash course on taxes if you don't mind. Property taxes, if there is no new growth in a city, the theory is that they will go down every year, okay? Meaning, what happens is the state, within the state code, they say, we'll just give an example, that you collect $100,000 or you assess $100,000 for your property taxes for 3 homes, okay? Now, realistically, you're not going to collect that full $100,000, okay? So you're probably going to collect, let's say, 90, just for round numbers, okay? So you're going to collect that 90,000. Well, if there's no new growth, the following year, the state says you were here at 100,000, you survived up to 90,000. We're only going to assess your rate based on that 90,000. So without new growth, you're actually decreasing your revenue every year.
Does that ever happen where there's no growth? Like,
No,
okay,
but new growth requires new services. New subdivisions requires more plowing, more manpower. Keep those things in mind, but yes, I've never seen it.
I can't imagine it ever happened.
Yeah, yeah,
No more dirt.
yeah.
York and
Somebody
Florida.
else completely built out, then you might have that, or a lower amount, But does that mean that the actual number goes down? No, because what I'm saying is that the city's surviving off of less. But if home values change, the home values go down, then the percentage actually does appear to go up. So it's kind of not true visual, if that makes sense. Because if your home values go down, you're still having to collect that 90,000. So now your percentage to collect that 90,000 has gone up. But again, you're not going to collect that 90,000. The next year, you're only going to collect 85. So each year, the city, without that new growth, it does go down in what you're collecting. So just kind of a little crash course in property taxes and how that works. But at the end of the day, that's how the state has designed that mechanism. Some cities do opt to do a property tax increase every year, meaning that they are maintaining that same rate. That is still considered a property tax increase if you maintain your rate. So if you go with the lower amount, then it's not a property tax increase. Hooper does have a very small property tax, as you all know, but that's just kind of a crash course on that. But there's other places to get revenues as well as property tax. Sales tax, it was great when they decided they were going to do plain sales tax. So all your Amazon stuff comes here, we get a portion of that sales tax. So that was great for, smaller cities like ours. So there's different things that you can do and stuff, but that's just kind of a little crash course on that.
Curiosity, any idea ballpark what we get from the Amazon turning back?
I don't, and unfortunately, they won't provide that to me. They would provide it to the mayor, but it is very high confidential.
Well, and you can, with ourselves, we usually get about, for our property tax, about 288,000, I think.
Yeah,
So we don't know.
That's included in that.
So just to give you an idea, on our budget for this year, our property taxes, we budgeted 290,000. Our sales tax was 1.7 budgeted. Franchise tax was 400,000. And again, we reserved 5% of that funds for kind of rainy day. Franchise tax was 57,000 budgeted. Telecommunication tax is 25 or 26,000. And then the sales tax, there's an additional portion of the sales tax. That's 0.25%. We get 160. So our total taxes that the city collects with all those is 2.6, and that is in those financials, that budget. There's a line item or a column for budget. Yeah.
So one thing with that coming meetings that we said, hopefully by our next meeting, we can decide this, because we haven't yet. Because we said possibly having one meeting at city council meeting, the second one can be optional if we didn't need it. So we kind of filled in some dates that we could actually use as budget meetings in like February and March, and then again April, and then in May, when was that, May 7th, when we have a council meeting to finish that budget. So when we talked about staff, and so we're going to do this little introductory, and we're asking staff to go through like they did and say, okay, what are your needs? What are some wants? Because of the size of our city, we usually are doing this even for our needs. We don't always get to the wants, and you know what, none of us want to raise taxes, but just as you know, there's only 3 ways that you can, with cities, you either raise taxes, you end up increasing revenues, which usually that might be through commercial business, or we cut services. And so those are options, we sit with our budget, we say, okay, we want to raise tax, which
One place I can, I don't mean this as a pointing fingers at anybody, just historically, Upper Cities operated very conservatively. And I don't wanna look at that. But I think we're missing the boat a little bit, keeping our internal monies up with our growth. We grow quite a bit. Every subdivision that comes in, we say yes to. Each one of those 20, 30 lot subdivisions are giving us about $2 to $3 million of infrastructure. That sounds great that the developer's giving that to the city, but it needs maintenance. And we're not calculating for that anywhere. I think that typically is covered in property tax, where we have just the little bit that the park district and the cemetery have. We're not tucking any money away. Eventually those sidewalks, those sewers, those curb and gutters will need to be rebuilt or at least maintained. And we're not thinking about that big picture.
Well, ironically, on what we get back from the property tax from the county, we're below the library. We get less money back from the city than is pulled out of the property taxes to support the library.
You should come back and talk to us like April 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in there for a few days.
Sure. Love to.
Really good.
I'm writing over your stuff up.
Sure, I'll have a whole list for you too.
Following some deals really closely too, because there's two guys, one of them is they're trying to cut property tax for residents, we understand that, so they're saying they want the property taxes to be like 45% and the commercial taxes to be 55%, so they're gonna raise taxes on businesses. That's great if your city has a lot of businesses, where we don't have businesses, and if they cut property taxes, we would be getting even less. Another thing they want to say is that the city could raise property taxes by no more than 5%. So I'll just use my house as an example. I'm paying $100 property tax to her, and I can only go up 5%. I'm going to give you $5 more. So, you know, these are some deals.
So our 2,500 residents in that scenario, we can go.
So I know it's a pit, it's not much, but like all these little in-home businesses and stuff, we collect sales tax on that too, right? I mean, obviously it's.
If they're subject to something.
Yeah.
It is point of delivery. Point of delivery is what you call it too. And like, I just kind of ran some numbers just to see what things were at. And like in 2020 or 2003, Pepper collected a 0.00386% sales tax. So 386, okay? In 2025, our rate has gone to 0.000283. So we've gone down, you can see our percentage from 23 to 25. So, I mean, it's, when you're talking that little bit, it, you know, but back in 23, we only got 53,000 in revenue. 25, we got about 268. So, but population, I couldn't pull population back then, but I pulled population in 2010. Based on population, we got $17 per resident. In 2024, we got $27 per resident. I know my property tax that went to the city was $120,000. So I get, or $120, sorry.
Yeah, wow.
I wish I say $1,000, sorry.
You got a big house.
Oh, yeah, big.
What's up, East Page Farmington?
No, it was 119 something, but anyways, you know, that, to me, as a resident, I'm sitting there thinking, what do I get for that? What do I get for that? I get my roads plowed, I get to drive down the streets, I get police service, I get fire service for $119 a year. That's a killer deal, you know, so. And when that.
You asked for 1 minute good news, I do have some, but our salt budget won't be over this.
Yeah.
Bill Clown stayed on that bill.
Now, because he bothered to say that, you know,
I know, I told him.
snow for the next 6 months.
March is coming.
Better hurry.
Yeah.
I
I'm right there with Jared. I feel bad for these guys. My husband is a snowplow driver for a city. So these guys have to go out.
He's missing a lot of overtime this year.
That's
No,
okay. I'm
hey,
fine with
I'll tell you what,
it.
Jared deserves all praise. I've never seen a city be able to start a project like this. Like, that guy is duct taping this stuff together.
I'm afraid it's gonna catch up. We have, like I said, we've been conservative from leadership down, but we do have to start looking at that. We can't grow it. I think our population's doubled since I started here, but the amount of people we have and equipment we have is the same. And we can stretch it, but not stretched out.
He does call me once in a while to borrow a baby.
I'm watching his house when the honey bucket shows up in his driveway. I know I'm making a call too.
Okay, well, thank you. You're back. No, that was great. We appreciate you taking the time. So with this, we just need to have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion made by.
That's right. That's
A lot more time for this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Positions.